Some mornings don't begin. They simply continue the absence of night. You open your eyes, but you don't wake up. You lift your body, but your soul is still lying there, somewhere between the pillow and the version of you that got left behind. It's an emptiness no one sees, but it weighs on you, and over time, you even learn to live with it, as if going through the motions was normal. But what if this silent sadness, the one that visits you before your first coffee, is actually a cry for help from your very essence? And what if all it took was a small gesture in the first 10 minutes of your day for everything to begin to change? Today, I want to share something that changed the way I wake up and the way I live. Stay with me till the end, because maybe what you most need isn't in the future. It's just waiting for you. When you wake up, there's a kind of routine that doesn't organize you. It suffocates. It keeps you running, but doesn't let you truly live. Waking up on autopilot doesn't seem dangerous at first glance. On the contrary, it seems efficient. Wake, get up, sort things out, rush. Everything in order, everything on time. But inside, it's as if nothing really starts. The day begins without us, and that absence keeps adding up. A little today, a bit more tomorrow, until one day, you no longer know what you feel when you open your eyes. You just know what needs to be done. It's as if life becomes a checklist, and we become employees of our own fate. The mind's already racing, already thinking of tasks, pain, expectations. And the body, it follows orders, but it follows them tired, without soul, without joy, without real rest. How many times have you felt exhausted before your first coffee? It's not your body, it's your heart, already waking up squeezed between everyone else's urgencies. It's different to open your eyes and actually wake up. One is biological, the other emotional. To awaken is to be fully present, even when life is tough, even when the day feels heavy. It's a gesture of presence, a whispered yes to yourself. But often, we do the opposite. The alarm goes off, eyes open, and the mind already rushes outwards, to the world, to fears, to what's missing, and we don't even notice that in that tiny instant, we've already abandoned ourselves. The first thoughts of the day say a lot. They reveal whether we're listening to ourselves or just reacting. They reveal whether the life we're living still fits in our chest or is just the one we've learned to endure. It's subtle but powerful, because the way you wake up shapes the way you see everything. If your soul wakes up under pressure, the world feels hostile. If your soul wakes up ignored, the day drags on, tasteless. But if your soul wakes up held, even the silence of the house feels like company. And that doesn't depend on free time. It depends on intention, on a pause, on the courage to listen to what's calling for help inside. What if what we call routine is actually an escape from ourselves? Maybe the real exhaustion doesn't come from what we do, but from how often we put ourselves last, right from the moment we wake up. And when that repeats for years, we forget what it's like to live with soul. But it's still there. Your soul hasn't left you. It's just waiting for you to listen again. For a long time, I used to wake up as if the day already belonged to someone else. As if, the moment I opened my eyes, I had to hand myself over to demands, to others, to the clock, as if my time wasn't mine, as if I wasn't mine anymore. Then came a day when I couldn't get out of bed, not because my body hurt, but because I no longer felt inside myself. It was in that silence, part tired, part desperate, that I realized either I started choosing for myself, or I'd keep fading away, slowly. And so, a choice arrived. It wasn't grand. There was no soundtrack, no shining sky. It was small, timid, almost invisible to anyone looking from the outside. But it was mine. I decided to start the day with myself, before the list, before others, before the world. I carved out a little space, a sacred pause between waking and doing. 10 minutes. Just mine. I didn't need to do anything extraordinary. Sometimes it was just sitting in silence. Other times, writing down what was hurting, or listening to a song that reminded me something was still beating inside. Those minutes became a kind of refuge, a place where I could remember who I was, before the rush, before the losses, before the pressure to manage everything. And then I understood. The first choice of the day can rewrite your story because the day begins from the inside out, and everything we offer to the world first passes through who we're being. If I start the day abandoning myself, I spend the rest of it trying to find myself again. But if I start it with me, the world might still be heavy, but I stay standing, trading hurry for presence. That's the gesture. That's the secret no book sells. And when that happens, the heart slows down, the breath finds space, the mind rests, and the soul says, thank you, because for the first time in a long time, it was seen. And what if the first choice of the day is the beginning of the life you thought you'd lost? It's not about controlling what happens next. It's about giving your story a beginning that recognizes you, a beginning that doesn't ignore you, a beginning that quietly says, you're still here, and you're still yours. It took a while for my body to understand. It was used to urgency, to rushing, to the guilt of stopping. But slowly, without fanfare, something began to shift. It started with the breath, with the morning silence that no longer felt so uncomfortable, with the way the coffee warmed my hands and seemed to speak to my chest. It was all very simple. A journal left beside the bed, a few words written without needing to sound beautiful, a whispered prayer, not to ask for anything, but to thank for still being here. The same coffee as always, but sipped with presence. And that light through the window, which I finally saw again. Everything changed, without anything changing, because I changed. When the soul is heard, the body begins to respond. The aches remain, but they're not so loud. The thoughts still stir, but they learn to return. It's like the world inside starts breathing again, and in that breath, forgotten memories come to visit. The taste of childhood, the smell of grandma's garden, the memory of dreaming without fear. It all comes back, not to hurt, but to remind you something is still alive. Tiny habits awaken emotions that were sleeping. The urge to look in the mirror with more kindness. The desire to wear something lovely. Not to impress anyone, but to tell yourself, you deserve to be cared for. We think we need a revolution, but sometimes all we need is a 10-minute ritual, an intimate, consistent, tender gesture, something that says to the heart, I see you, I'm here, let's go together. And then something is reborn, not with fireworks, but with truth, not with rush, but with peace. Sometimes what we call exhaustion is just longing for ourselves. And when that longing is met, it becomes a path. It becomes ground. It becomes comfort. It's not about conquering the day. It's about coming back to life in it. Starting over looks beautiful, on paper, but in real life it sometimes comes with a hidden ache. A quiet, persistent voice that whispers early in the soul, you're late. At your age, it doesn't make sense anymore. That was meant for before, not now. It's a silent guilt that no one teaches you how to name, but it settles into the small things, in the shame of trying something new, in the hesitation in front of the mirror, in the doubt about whether you're still allowed to dream, or if time has already shut the door. After 50, everything you didn't live starts to feel heavier. The kids have grown, plans have changed, the body speaks differently, and the soul sometimes hides, afraid of seeming foolish for still wanting more. Why does starting over after 50 feel like a mistake? Maybe because we were taught that the peak has an expiry date, and after that, all that's left is maintenance. But that's not true. It's just another lie that gets repeated so often. It turns into a rule. That inner voice saying, this isn't for you, isn't telling the truth. It's only trying to protect you, but doing so with fear, not with love. That guilt, for trying, for changing, for putting yourself first. It's a slow poison because it makes us feel that self-care is a luxury, that living differently is selfish, that seeking joy is childish. But it's not. It's emotional maturity. It's dignity. It's the courage to return to yourself. Turning that guilt into a reconciliation with time is perhaps one of the most delicate and beautiful things we can experience. I started by writing to myself. Not to post, not to show, not to explain, just to listen to my own soul. A short letter, simple, addressed to my own dawn. I wrote as if I were apologizing, as if I were reaching out a hand, as if saying, I took a while, but I'm here now, and this time I'm not leaving, because the morning, the one that begins inside, still belongs to me. Even now, even after everything, even after so many years of not choosing myself, you're not late. You were just waiting for the time you'd be brave enough to return to yourself, and that time is now. There is a kind of peace that makes no noise. It doesn't arrive with fireworks or grand achievements. It's born in the tiniest gestures, like the first sip of coffee, the silence before the tasks, the breath that, for the first time in ages, isn't stuck in your chest. When the first act of the day is a gesture of love for yourself, the rest of life begins to rearrange around it, not because the problems vanish, but because you stop vanishing into them. And that's when the invisible magic begins. What changes in the rest of the day when you start with intention isn't the world. It's how you place yourself within it. When you choose yourself early on, the no's that once hurt become protection. The pressure that once suffocated loses power. The comparison that once stung loses its grip. You no longer need to prove anything. You just need to be, and truly be. That's so rare. It transforms everything around you. The feeling is that, finally, you're in charge of your own story, not with rigid control, but with presence, with clarity, with lightness. It's not that you start doing less. It's that you do things with soul, with your whole being. You do it because you want to, not just because you have to. Life asks for fewer justifications and more listening. And when you start the day listening to yourself, it gets easier to listen to others too, without losing yourself in the process. The impact is quiet, but deep. It shows up in simple things, in the tone of your voice, in the outfit you choose, in the way you answer an email, in the pause before snapping back. It's more lightness, more presence, less regret, because time is no longer just a bridge to the future. It becomes a home in the now. And living like that is a kind of freedom no one can take from you. Sometimes the greatest revolution is drinking your first coffee of the day with your whole soul present. It's not about changing the entire world, nor about getting everything right. It's about changing the world inside you the moment you wake up. That world no one sees, but that runs everything. The first minutes of the day hold a secret power. They don't fix your life, but they can realign your soul. They can whisper, softly, you're still here, and that's already a miracle. 10 minutes. That's it. 10 minutes, lived with presence, that leave trails of peace through the rest of the day. The rush continues. The pain doesn't vanish, but you no longer step into the day like someone giving up. You step in like someone choosing, like someone walking with awareness, like someone who's come back to live in her own body after years of living for others. Because even after 50, the morning is still an invitation. Life is still knocking. There's still something new waiting to be born from within. And it doesn't matter how many days you've spent on autopilot, how many mornings you ignored what you felt, how many times you said, I don't have time for myself. What matters is now. What matters is that you're listening to this, with a heart open enough to admit, yes, I miss myself. And what if tomorrow you woke up wanting to live, not just survive? What if those 10 minutes became a promise of reunion? What if, despite everything, you chose to hold yourself first, before handing the leftovers to the world? You still have time. Time to return. Time to listen. Time to make your mornings a quiet altar of reconnection, because it's not too late. Too late is never realizing you deserve to start with you. And now you know, everything begins in the first 10 minutes, and you can choose. Again, tomorrow, and the next day, and always. Until one day, without even realizing, your life has your name on it again. And yes, you still have time. If this spoke to you, leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Check out the videos in the card. Thank you and see you in the next video.